Christine, always a pleasure to be in your orbit. Sure. I started a long, long time ago blogging back in 1998 when they were calling it journaling. I was very early to podcasting in '05. I had a YouTube channel in '05, and I was user 10,202 on Twitter. So that's my social bona fides. I wrote a couple of books, including Trust Agents, which won the New York Times bestseller list, and about 20 other things. And then a little book called Social Media 101 shortly thereafter, just for giggles. So there's my social. What I really do is I'm a business advisor and a marketing advisor. I help companies try to figure out how to be human at a distance. And I more or less try to make every company in the world learn how to treat my mom better. And I launched a thing called Story Leader at the very beginning of the year, where I figured that if I could teach companies how to do better business stories internally and externally, maybe life would be grand.
Oh, I love that. I'm actually going to back up for a second because my mic wasn't on at the beginning. So for those who didn't hear it, this is Social. I'm Christine Gritman. I do this show every week where I have a conversation with a smart friend about social media, business, and all that jazz. And since it is May, we're doing Mental Health Month. So Chris Brogan, who just was so kind and introduced himself, and I are going to talk about that intersection of mental health and small and business and social media, because we are all humans and we need to bring that to the table. And that dovetails really nicely into what you said, Chris, about how you help people tell stories. You help brands tell stories and be more human from a distance. So let's talk about what it means to be human exactly.
Humans are not straightforward and super easy. One of the things that we kind of forget about a lot of times is that we want everything to fit nicely in the boxes. We want all the pieces to line up. And the industrial age came about because of that. Everybody was pretty happy on their farm. But then somebody said, it'd be really good if you could get this farm to really put out a lot of stuff, not a little stuff. And, then we came up with factories, and Ford, created the idea.
Stuff.
We could do a lot more stuff faster. Now, there's obviously value to that. Engineering is, basically the art of how do I refine a process until it's, repeatable and reasonably reliable. But humans are not that. And I think we accidentally thought that would be a great idea. And so we kind of built our humans like that. We built the information age around that. And my take is that for many years I've believed this, but maybe now it's true that we've all been locked in cages. That I think we are realizing, hey, I kind of like the humanity, and I like the not same things, and I like that people aren't wearing pants on their Zoom calls or whatever. And I think that maybe we could bring a little of this to the real world. And so what I do, I try to help people figure out, what are the important business stories that they need to tell. And what does that mean? Because storytelling is not a job, it's a part of the business. And I think that what do they need to know when they want to just focus on the thing they want to focus on to get them in and out of it faster? How do we deliver? That's my business.
Absolutely. Well, that's a really good point. But to your point also about how, we built all these things, the Industrial Revolution, about being more do more and more standardized and all of that. People aren't built that way, but also brands. It's interesting the impact that has on brands, because I feel like brands were initially built that way. The whole premise of a brand, when you think of a brand, you think of an expectation of consistency from that brand. But when it comes to a personal brand, and when it comes to the people behind that brand, I feel like social media in particular has been occasioning this shift from wanting our brands to be perfect and untouchable and reliable and predictable to wanting our brands to be a little bit more human. And this whole quarantine situation is a very interesting kind of threshold in that moment there. That's not the word I was looking for. But it's an interesting place in that moment about how the brands that are, trying to act like nothing's happening, that's not really flying. People aren't resonating.
It's not. And I think that we're seeing, there's a few different outputs that we see, right? We see people parrot everyone else's message. And so we get that great montage message of a bunch of places without people in them with soft piano music playing. And we realize, oh crap, everyone put the same message out. Lazy marketers be damned. We're seeing a lot of cracks in the armor. I've been countlessly every few days, because every time I get another message in the inbox, I go to Twitter and bark about it again. But a particular cruise line that I won't name that rhymes with Schmarnival keeps sending me ads to get on one of their ships for as low as $50.
Nope.
And I keep saying, well, one, that's not the message. Two, it's a plague vessel. I don't think I'd like to be on it right now. Thank you. And three, it's just not the right message for the right time. And contrast that with one of the ads that I've been talking so much about, Lincoln Corporation that makes the cars. They've been talking about their message is the power of sanctuary. And they're like, we know what it's like right now. You're stuck at home. You're not feeling so great. But if you were in the process and you kind of needed a new car, we can drop one right off in the driveway. Don't worry about it. And we'll just hand you the papers. You don't have to touch anybody. You're good. And I feel like that's an important thing. Maybe you were like right on that moment to buy a car, but even if you're not, it's in your head. You're like, oh, that's interesting. I'll think about those guys. And so I feel that as we're in this moment in time, I think, a lot of companies were really phoning in how they wanted to communicate about themselves. And they felt like if they just did the work, that would be good enough. But that's never really true. It's not just doing the work. It's showing that you're there. It's showing that you care. It's showing what you give. And I feel this is a watershed moment for the opportunity for local businesses to reclaim a lot of their space. Amen. Because every time they do something cool for someone local, that message is getting spread more than it ever was in the old days.
Yeah, it's also really relatable, right? Because the fact is you realize that the person you're helping is a real person. I feel like Scrappy and, relatability and the humanness is the superpower of small businesses always. And this is actually a time when they might have, in that regard, a bit of an advantage over the big guys who don't know what to do.
No question. And but I never let anybody off the hook. No. Sir Richard Branson runs over 400 companies, and his guys are doing a great job. I think that what I feel is at play almost every single time that something like that goes a little awry are bad marketing and lazy marketing, either driven by internal people who they were just like, it's not in their spreadsheet. I feel like everything falls down to if they can't find the column in their spreadsheet, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's data driven, and then there's being exclusively a data point.
Yeah. And, it's just not, we forget that the word marketing is from the marketplace. And the reason marketing exists is because the marketplace used to be central to whatever human clustering there was. We would be outside the castle wall, or we would be at the crossroads of some bazaar somewhere. And that was the market. And that's what marketing was. And then when we realized that we could sort of expand past the main street, location, 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 that's when newspapers and TV and radio existed, and billboards, because it mattered, because it was to bring the market to where the people were and where the product was. That's that marriage. That's what marketing is. But we forget that, and we accidentally wonder which marketing platform we need and which kind of automation we need and whatever. And I think that the point of social, the worst named technology cluster in the universe, because it makes us also make it sound like it's not important, is the most important element, because it's the human glue layer, and that's the part we need.
Absolutely. Speaking of that human glue layer, it's tricky at the best of times to figure out how much human to put in a personal brand. If you're Nike, you're Nike. You can maybe use humans to illustrate your brand and its relevance to humans, but the fact is you're Nike. But if you're a personal brand, which the internet, of course, created a boom of, it can be very difficult to navigate that space between that human vulnerability and yet being a leader and being someone who is trusted to be reliable enough to be a brand to follow and possibly even a person to hire. And I feel like especially right now, when meeting people where they are on that human and vulnerable level can be more scary than usual because everyone's freaking out right now. It's a very difficult dance, especially if you're someone who previously did stick to that veneer of professionalism. So you've had to navigate this yourself, as have I, being a personal brand who's kind of out there in terms of putting yourself forward as a full human being. So what are some ways that people can sort of navigate that without veering too far on the robot to hot mess scale?
That's so funny you mentioned hot mess, because in Trust Agents, we called it this, and for years we've called it this. But that's like so 2009. That's Perez Hilton, right?
I don't know.
So it's Perez Hilton's hot mess. He was the one who coined it a billion years ago, and it was basically,
it is coming back because we are all a hot mess right now.
Exactly. Someone realized that I'd shaved my head and asked me, oh, so you're that part of the Britney Spears chart that went around?
2007 Britney. There you go.
I said, yeah, I really am. Britney, by the way, just burned down her home gym. She burned it down. She said, there were some candles. I don't really want to talk about it.
Oh, Britt.
And
Gift keeps on giving.
It really, and so to your point, to your question, we're seeing this, right? Like, we're seeing this implode in some ways. Very fancy rich people are whining about being locked in quarantine. Cardi B crying that she had to eat cereal is the epitome of stabby responses, right? Like, you're just like, come the fuck on. Mm-hmm. Sorry, censors. But on the other side, John Bon Jovi got mad that someone took a photo of him doing dishes in one of his soup kitchens. He said, don't take pictures of me, take pictures of the other guys. I'm just doing what we're all doing. I'm just doing something to help, because that's what you do. And I'm like, oh man, I haven't listened to John Bon Jovi in a while, but I sure will. And I think that, watching rich people cry is a great reminder of how not to be a personal brand. You've got to really be who you are. And by the way, that's who they really are. And all it really means to me is, I don't think I'm giving you my attention even when this is over. And I think you're, we can break up now. I would rather give my attention to Christine. I would rather give my attention to Steve Garfield. I would rather give my attention to people that I have hugged at some social event than all these fancy people who turn out not to be as funny as we think they are, who turn out to be not nearly as interesting, but who have just been put into that place by a system that I don't think I subscribe to. So I sound a little ranty, but I mean it towards us as well, right? We can be us, and we can do something. So what makes a personal brand worth a damn, though, is not the work you put into it. It is not the making sure all your things line up the right way, or the colors are the right colors, or whatever, although it helps. What really defines it is this something that can entertain me, inform me, and that I feel a layer of trust and connectivity? Humans don't want to try to fit in anymore. We want to go where we belong. And that sense of belonging is one of the top feelings that good brands have of any size versus others. And I think the thing that's kept people even a little bit paying attention to me for so long, for so many years, has just been, oh, he can do it. I guess I can do it. Like, I think my personal brand, whatever I want it to be, is different. But I think what people get the most out of it is, well, he sure is who he says he is all the time, every way. And he'll talk about pee, poop, and farts, on a stage or off. And I think that that's what we have to deliver, Christine. I think it's the hardest part of what we have to do is, can we bring our real us to the world in a way that's helpful and that connects people, and that isn't just us blathering in a direction?
How would you describe your personal brand? I know that's the worst question. I know.
Probably the ultra worst. I would tell you which is my favorite kid first.
Okay. Which is your
the
favorite
older
kid?
One,
all right, cool.
Older
Good
one.
to know. Yeah, lately I've been into Ellie.
So my personal brand. My brand is probably based on the fact that despite my failures and flaws, I persist. Like, nevertheless, he persisted. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to steal anything from that movement, but I really most definitely am known for. He's that guy who did it first, who did it worst, and then who fixed it as best he could, and then showed you. And I think people come to me because I say things in a kind of interesting way or a different way. And I make you think a little bit for yourself and try something on that you maybe weren't super comfy doing. The other thing I do is, people are always like, oh, you're so authentic. The only people who use the word authentic are people who aren't. Mm-hmm. And so I like to say that I'm so a human being, and I don't have to worry about whether or not you think I'm smart or not. I'm never the smartest guy in the room. I'm in the top 5 nicest looking guys in the room, but I'm not the top one. And I am never I'm never the one who's going to be the most successful. I'm going to be the one who shows you where the problems are also, because I don't need to show you my Lamborghini and my library.
I like that. I'm going to bring up Linda's comment, which is, love that. We don't want to fit in anymore. We want to go where we belong. I love that. And she is a friend of mine
Linda.
and a fan of yours. So to that end, authenticity has been a part of your brand for a while. You just said you're the guy who will, put things in an interesting way, who will say things, who will show up imperfect and then show you how to get better. Here's the question, and here's the balance that a lot of people try to deal with, which is, how can you be trusted as an authority while kind of like, how do you bridge that gap between, because the thing is, we don't want to watch or follow or learn from someone who's just doing the unfiltered, like messing up. But I think part of what you hit on there is that path of bringing them along with you as to how to get better. But I mean, where's that kind of tipping point? Again, on the hot mess to robot scale, which I just came up with during this broadcast, by the way. But I mean, what do you think are some key factors in that tipping point?
If I had never been successful at anything, then no one would know my name. We don't remember very famous failures that often unless it's caused a massive loss of life. And so far, my body count is very low. So I'm reasonably famous for a very unreasonably small amount of success. And so what I do a little different than a lot of people is I just show you every step of the way. Like, hey, look, I wrote this book. Oh, that's weird. It became a bestseller. And it's almost that Pete Davidson approach of like, I don't know, like it just happened. And I feel for him because he was talking about, for instance, how on Saturday Night Live, Pete Davidson's a comic. He's on Saturday Night Live. He's no good at sketch comedy. He's no good at acting. He made a movie. Guess what? It was terrible because he's a stand-up and that's all he knows how to do. I just spit all over me. He's a stand-up and that's all he does, right? So I only know how to do a few things. I can write really, really well. I'm a great writer, a quirky writer, but very great writer. And I'm good at saying things in weird ways. So all that I had to do, basically the only reason you come to the Chris Brogan restaurant is you want to see what kind of weird thing I'm going to cook. And you want to see, can I land it? Half the time I think people come because I can't wait to see the failure. It's like why we watch car races.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to see me hit the wall. And I am so grateful every time I do. Wham! Oh, I guess I won't do that again. But I have to win sometimes or it doesn't work. So I think that's part of it. The thing with the hot mess too is there's such a vast difference between, explaining to someone that you deal with depression or that you have your problems or that you have these failings or something versus saying it in a way that you're really hoping for a lot of pity or grief or sorrow, or you're just really kind of, you're trying to, it's like you're passing the hat for emotion. Mm-hmm. And I don't want that. And so what I always try to do is try to make sure that people understand that the hot mess line is basically when you've gone over that. When you've basically showed how needy you are, that's the least attractive human trait. So I just show how confident I am and talk about the dumpster fire that is my existence. And I think the two go, it's an attractive dumpster fire. So that's what I do. I just show that.
I feel like it's almost more important for people who are in a position where there are people who are leading others and who others are following to be honest about those dumpster fires and to say, yes, I'm going to use my platform to make it really clear that I'm not perfect because I need you to know, people who are looking up to me or following me, that I'm not perfect and you don't need to be either.
So there are 45 leaders of the formerly best country on the planet. There have been 45 of them. Mm-hmm. Almost zero of them are quoted anywhere in their vast library of words as saying, wow, I sure didn't know of that. Like, whoa, I messed that up. Yep, I had sex with her. Right? Like, none of that comes out. And sometimes it's a little more intense. Sometimes, the person disavows all knowledge of all things, even with film running. But in general, out of all those 45 leaders, none of them have said, I just don't know. Right? Like, there's never been like Reverend Jim from the 1970s series Taxi. as our president. And on the one hand, we really do need confidence. Confidence is the next book I'm working on is called The Backpack. And if I really secretly just put the word confidence on every single page, which I might, that is all I'm teaching you. Because the one thing that separates very unattractive people from attractive people is confidence. And I think that it's so easy to get yours dented and ruined and mashed for a while. And I think that once you're operating from a slightly better confidence, a lot of things that even aren't this, you know who's the most dangerous human in the world? Someone who really thinks they can do it, you know? And confidence is an arrogance, and confidence is at least partly related to ignorance, but you get much more confident when you feel, smart. And I think that that's the secret magic formula.
Beware
You're the first person I've said that to.
I like it. Beware of very stable geniuses with good you-know-whats. No. But anyway, to that end, a lot of people who maybe... So you and I have both talked before about the fact that we have dealt with shaken confidence. We have dealt with our brains attacking us, quite honestly, because that's mental health. The brain is a part of the body, and just like your nose can get a cold, your brain can start pumping out chemicals and make you feel like crap. And right now, a lot of people, including leaders, are experiencing this who are not used to it. They're not used to tapping into that confidence, finding a way to power through. They're used to being held up as a little further along the robot scale, as being very competent, as being this idea of what a leader is. So, how can people who are going through that, maybe who haven't had that experience before, who don't have those coping mechanisms developed already, how's a way that they can, persevere? Because the old way isn't going to work for them right now.
That is very true. So there's a few things to go into that. So I deal with a very minor case of major clinical depression. So I'm technically on the major clinical depression scale, but I'm like the sweetest, happiest, depressed guy you'd ever know. Meaning the chemicals flood right through, but it doesn't go to the worst parts of what depression, the chemical disease, can do. Now, what a lot of people are running into right now is basically as close as they're going to get to experiencing the chemical kind of depression. And the real big difference, I keep stressing that word because people will try to tell me to cheer up, or they'll try to tell me the things that I have to live for. That's when you're down in the dumps. That's like saying to somebody with diabetes, that's okay, eat these cookies and just think about lettuce. You'll be fine, right? Or get out of that wheelchair. You can do it.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. So what I try to help my newly found brethren in depression.
Welcome.
Yes, come on in. Anxiety's free. You get it free.
All the cool kids are here.
Bathing
all the funny kids,
optional.
Anyway.
So it's what I talk about a lot is the world has to shrink down. You have to suddenly go to small bites, small moments. You have to remember depression is an asshole and a liar. Depression lies. Depression does two things, says two words more than any other words: always and never. You will always feel like this. You will always feel like this. You will never change. You never have changed before. Why would you change now? You will never change. You are always going to be whatever you are: fat, ugly, old, whatever. Here's the truth. You're not always going to be old, because then you'll be dead, and then it's going to be fine.
Side.
I think that what I try to help people with the most is take small bites, find smaller goals, give yourself permission to let go of a lot of things. I am looking at 2.5 feet of laundry, 2.5 feet tall. I did 2 batches. I'm feeling pretty good. That 2.5 feet, it might take me the whole rest of 3 or 4 days to get it done. No one's here. My kids are here on the weekends. They move around it. They can dodge it. It's fine. Life's good. The house is okay. There aren't bugs. There's a pile of laundry. Don't make your damn bed. It's okay. That's where you can be when you're dealing with depression. What you then focus on, so you have clients and things like that, you have deliverables, you focus on it. You message them. You say, you know what? I just need you to know I'm kind of going through a little bit of a personal challenge right now. You can say depression or not. And I'm just a little slower than I'm normally. I'm going to stay in contact with you. I'm pretty sure I can make my deadline. If I feel like I'm not going to make my deadline, I'm going to message you that too. What we do the worst when we're dealing, especially with temporary depression, is we quiet down, we huddle up, we go into the hunker. Christine knows it well. We all hide. So I'm famous for the Irish exit. I'll go into a place, everyone will say they're sure they saw me, and I'll have left hours ago. Depression is like a 24/7 Irish accent. You try to hide as much as you humanly can. The answer to how are you really is a lie. And what you need to do, what generally you need to do is the least things you can do. So you work on your deliverable at the expense of going out for that walk you're supposed to go on. Now, the things to fix the chemical side of it, besides real live medicine, vitamin D, the sun, really good sleep, but not too much sleep. Because I'm a world-class Olympic level sleeper when I'm dealing with depression. 12 hours is the least hours I sleep in a row with depression. So you need to kind of watch that. Then, reasonably good food. Your body wants sugar and carbs so bad. There. You are a pro.
This was a reference to a conversation we had on Twitter about comfort foods, and mine all had to do with cheese. And anyone who knows me in real life, yep.
You were a pro. I'm done. I have nothing else to say. That was so perfect. Oh my gosh. And I had just said, she said, can I bring you anything? I said, maybe a good Gruyere, Cheddar will do. Cheddar will do. So no, depression is that. It's what's least, and this is everybody's job, not my job, because I do it all the time. Don't make it a big deal. Like, depression's not a big deal. Just be like, I deal with depression. It's not herpes.
Which also isn't a big deal. You can live with herpes.
That's what they say. Everyone's got the herpes.
A girl I went to college with, who's a doctor, actually wrote a book called "Yes, I Have Herpes."
Look at that.
Because she's saying, you know what? Let's turn this into not a superpower. It doesn't. She can't fly with her herpes. But the fact is, she's saying, let's talk about this. I'm going to be that confident person who can be out there saying, I'm dealing with this. Who's with me?
Cool.
Yeah, that's not me, FYI, for people who
I think I'm going to buy that as a Purim gift for new friends. I think that's a good just...
They'll wonder why you're giving it to them.
Yes. Well, I'll make it anonymous, too. Or I'll make it, to the spouse. Yeah.
There are going to be some phone calls. But sorry, so you were saying, focus on the things that you can do.
Small bites.
Yeah, small bites. Eat properly. Don't eat crap because that'll just make you feel worse. But comfort foods, comfort foods with protein and calcium are good.
There you go. It's perfectly well defined. I, for one, have put on my own COVID-19. So
yeah.
Can't wait to...
I
can't wait to pretend I have a gym membership after this thing.
Exactly.
So I have to.
But I'm sorry. I know we have to wrap up in a minute, but I just really wanted to dig in a little tiny bit more to something you said, which was, people communicating instead of going into a home pretending it's not happening and keeping the veneer. People, but at the same time, not having to go out publicly and saying I'm depressed. That element of just those one-to-one calls saying, hey, I have a deliverable for you. FYI, I'm going through a weird time. Here's the renewed set of expectations. We've both done this, so we know that people, especially right now with the world situation, are going to be more forgiving of that. But the fact is, the person who hasn't yet made that call is terrified. That sounds like a worst nightmare. So how do you deal with the terror? Because the thing is, of course, the scenario that plays in your head before making that call is they're going to think I'm a total unprofessional loser and dump me.
Right. So here's what we do a lot in these moments. We look a lot at our belly button, especially when we're depressed. We're always inside ourselves.
I'm not bringing that on camera. I've had two kids.
It's okay. The other person who you're dealing with, the client or whatever, none of that's on their mind. They're just like, well, I knew Christine said she was going to do this thing and she was going to say Thursday, but I haven't really heard from Christine lately. I should have made it about me, because you're the one. I mean, I just made you the depressed person with a slipping deadline.
It happens.
But that person doesn't care. The person wants to know a few things. So when exactly are you going to have it done? Do I have to replace you? And whatever. So that call should be so simple. I'll be hey, it's Chris. I just want to let you know. I know you said May. I have something due today. This is a real life example, and I'm going to get it done. Which is let's pretend I wasn't. I would send back an email. Hey, Karen. Her name's Karen. That's why I said her name. Hey, Karen. It's Chris. I'm dealing with depression right now, so my writing is coming out really slow. I don't know what's going on. I know my deadline's today. It's going to be either the end of day or by the time you've gone to bed. So really, technically, it'll be tomorrow. I hope you don't hate me. I'm probably going to be all right with the rest of my deadlines. But if I'm not, like, maybe we could just sort of pad a couple days on. What do you think? That's all they want to know. They want to know, are you going to deliver it? Yes or no? Do I need to replace you? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, depressed person, then help them, because you're going to look like an extra worse jerk if you make them lose.
Yeah.
If you can, like, give them the heads up so that they can go find someone while you fix your depression, you lost a client, but you saved your reputation. And that's the most important part. And so
don't hide is really, really key. I love that. And it's very funny that Lisa happened to comment. Lisa wrote, same, I've gone full on COVID nerve cave gremlin. Eating is real. I love Lisa. And it's funny because I actually do some work with Lisa, and I have been late with stuff for Lisa and told her, hey, I've started by kind of hiding and saying, no, I'm totally saying to myself, I'm totally going to make it. I'm totally going to no, I'm going to buck up. I'm going to buck up and get it done. I'm going to buck up. And then I don't say anything. And then it's late and it's terrible. When I have said, I'm really sorry. I know this sucks, but this is going to be late. Here's when you can expect it. She's been great. She's been totally understanding. And she has said, I just want to make sure that if this is too much for you, that's fine. Just let me know.
Right.
And I'm going to have my article to you before I go to bed, Lisa. But yeah, so that is huge. So don't hide. Especially not now. It's not going to wreck you and your brand and your professional standing to the level that you think it will, because guess who you're working with? Humans.
Turns out.
Probably.
96.4% of people in business are actually still human, so it's not a bad option that you'll get a human. I've never used DoorDash before, and one of my kids wanted a burger not made by dad, because I'm like, I can make burgers, kid. We got this. Well, can you buy a DoorDash?
Of course,
can you
it's
get
different.
Five Guys?
Restaurant food.
It's not the same. So I said, yeah, we'll get Five Guys. So I never ordered DoorDash. So the communications part of what we have to do in these times, in these uncertain times, I'm certain they're not fun. The DoorDash does this. Hey, your order is here. Five Guys has your order. Five Guys tells us they're working on your order. Your DoorDash driver is coming over to pick it up. They're leaving the place right now. They're 5 minutes out. Your food's here, right? That's what the world wants. The PizzaHut.com does not do that, and they're a big established company that's delivered forever. Domino's doesn't do that. You have to call them. What the hell? Where's my food? We do a lot
Domino's
of
does on the app. I shouldn't know that. I live in New York, but I
the
have
app,
ordered Domino's. It does that on the app. You know when it enters the oven.
There you go. So, and I think that, but then I heard that was fake. I heard it's like you could time it and it would be the same every time.
Interesting.
Yep, they fake their ovens.
Ooh, I don't order enough Domino's to know that.
So anyway, but my little local guy, they're still, reliant on just the telephone and the least amount of communications they humanly can make.
Yes.
So.
It's rough. Give people updates, people. Get on SMS, have a text feature or something. But, just as a human, give people updates. Give people updates. You don't have to blow up your brand by saying, hey, everyone, here's what I'm going through. But the people who rely on you, the people who actually matter to your brand, the people who are in it, give them a heads up. Confidence and communication. We're up to 2 C words. Yes. And cheese. And cheese. That's the third key. And 2 Chris's. All right. So, that Chris, tell the good people at home where they can find you and why they would want to do so. I don't know why anyone would want to find me. I probably owe you something. ChrisBrogan.com is easy enough. And if you can't spell my name, Google some approximation of Chris Brogan and Google will say, did you mean Chris Brown? No, also we did fine. Not. No, it's not. No. Not at all. I've just censored myself from a bad joke, so that's good news. ChrisBrogan.com. That's all we need to do. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris Brogan at ChrisBrogan.com. I am, again, Christine Gritman. I do this show every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time where I talk to smart friends about various topics. Again, for Mental Health Month, I am focusing on that intersection between mental health, social media, and business. Next week, I have my friend Amy Aram from Capitalize Social Media, and she is going to talk about sort of, positivity and thinking positive, but not in a bad, this will fix everything sort of way. I promise. And thanks so much. Hope you join me next week. Bye.